Will Brexit affect house prices? Will they crash? Will they keep going up? Uh, Tricky question. I am going to try and be as impartial as possible. I'm going to try and walk that line between Project Fear and the unicorns and explain to you what the possible outcomes are and what I think is going to happen after this intro.
I'm Tim Hill, internet entrepreneur, property investor, and author of How to Really Buy a Property. No, it's not one of those books that goes on and on about how you can make millions investing in property, and all you have to do is go on my course to learn the secrets, and then you go on my course and you find out that you have to go on my master course to learn the real secrets. None of that. If you have decided to buy a property, no matter what your motivation, then How to Really Buy a Property is the smart way to do it. And it will save you time, money, and stress.
So the question is not actually will Brexit affect house prices, it is will the outcome of Brexit affect house prices. So if you are of the school that says that in a hard no Brexit situation that the market is going to crash, that's because you're saying the economy going to crash. A lot of companies are going to close down. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs, not be able to pay their mortgages. And what it basically does is it starts flooding the market with properties, and there's no one there to buy. And when there's no one there to buy, it's just supply and demand. Too much supply, not enough demand, price starts dropping. And by how much, it just depends how bad the actual economy crashes by, if that's what actually happens. If you believe the school that says that Brexit is going to cause boom times and everything's going to be absolutely fantastic, then boom times mean more people are employed, people have got more money, people are confident to do things, house prices will go up. I always just come down to this: it is supply and demand. I've had lots, some people say, oh, it's, that can't be true. They've said things like, okay, in 2007, Spain built 800,000 new properties and Britain built 200,000 new properties. Spanish property prices rose faster than the UK. Therefore, it can't, they had bigger supply. Yet supply and demand. So they had bigger supply, but they also had much bigger demand, which allowed property prices to rise. Now, of course, you can do other things to allow property prices to rise that are beyond supply and demand. So if we did something structural, we said, okay, 50-year mortgages, they're the norm, and you can borrow 6 times your income. That just instantly gives people access to a lot more money, and that would cause property prices to rise. Fine. That is true. Those kind of structural things, can make a big difference. But we're just talking generally that when an economy tanks and lots of people lose their jobs, you tend to find there's not enough buyers around and there's too many sellers who can't afford their mortgages. Now, maybe they can't afford to sell because then the price of their property drops so low it won't pay off their mortgage. The bank takes the property back and they want to sell, and you do end up with that situation. I remember it very much in the 1990s. This was a big thing, especially in some areas of the country where properties lost a massive amount of their value. Overall, in the UK, property prices didn't move down that much, but it was a very big shift in some areas. And we saw the same thing in the kind of 2007, 2008. But what we saw there that was slightly different is that most sellers most property owners didn't need to sell, and they weren't losing their jobs in the same way that they did in the 1990s. So they weren't in a position of saying, I've lost my job, I've lost my income, can't pay the mortgage, I have to sell now, or let the bank take it back. Didn't see so much of that. Yes, property prices did drop during the credit crisis quite dramatically in the first year, but also what you notice is the number of transactions dropped massively. I think in 2007 or something like that. So in a month you could see 150,000 property transactions going through in any one month. It's all there on Land Registry. They keep the records of these things. And then the next year that was like plummeting to like 30,000 transactions, even from 150,000 transactions a month to 30,000 transactions. Why? Because property owners were just saying, oh, well, I won't sell now then. If property price has gone down, I won't sell. Now, there were transactions, and that makes a lot of sense because to some people, it's the ideal time to make a move. But say you've got a flat and it was worth 200,000 before things went a bit pear-shaped. So it's worth 200,000, and what you want to do is you want to buy a house, and the house is worth 500,000. Okay, it's quite a big step, but maybe you can afford it. Then things go pear-shaped, and the property market moves down, say 20%, and big headlines, oh, 20%. So your property is now £160,000 market value. You're probably a bit depressed, but the house you want to buy has moved from 500,000 to 400,000. So you've lost £40,000 on the value of your property, but you're going to save 100,000 on what you buy. This is called the trading gap, and it's one reason why a lot of savvy people will sell when the market has collapsed. It's just such a great time to move. It's such a great time to upsize to something bigger. And of course, without many other buyers around, you've got less competition going on as well, less chance of getting gazumped. Excuse me. So that's why collapsing markets can be a good thing for a lot of people. And of course, it's a good thing because it just makes it a little bit more affordable for first-time buyers. Right, so what's Brexit actually going to do? Well, the trouble is we're still in a situation where no one's actually decided what Brexit is, and we still really don't know if we went for a real no deal, hard Brexit, what would actually happen. Would it be, as some people suggest, that on day one, day two, week one, month two, we won't notice a huge difference because people will put things in place quickly to just paper over the cracks. This thing about flying in essential things. Companies will find a way through to, export where they were exporting, or they'll be relocating, but not in the numbers that people have thought, and it will be a slow progression. That's the hope of a no deal. In which case, you might see that house prices kind of flatline a bit. I think the day after a no deal Brexit, you might see a bit of a collapse, a bit of a panic going on because everybody has been saying, except for a very small number of people, that a no deal Brexit is going to have an impact on the economy. We might have a recession. I know some people have said that recession would be worth it because we're taking back control and all that. So that's something, a pain worth going through. Fine, if you want. The other argument I've seen is we'll have less immigration. And we're, in the last 20 years, we moved from about 55 million as a population to 65 million as a population, very skewed towards the southeast. Again, this is all rising, causing demand to rise for property. And there's really not much room in the southeast. As a country, we're very bad at building new properties. So go back to that 200,000 new properties a year figure that I mentioned earlier when comparing Spain and the UK. It's not actually real. The government keeps a tally of what they call net dwellings. And net dwellings means that how many new properties, places to live, have been added to the overall stock. So if you go and demolish a tower block with 50 apartments in it, you've lost 50. If you then build an apartment block with 25 apartments in it, you're still 25 down. Okay, so you're a net minus 25. We as a country very, very rarely hit a kind of 200,000 new flats or new dwellings figure when you actually take out what's being removed from the property market at the same time. So, okay, let's take the argument that less immigration, less demand. Well, I don't particularly see that being borne out. Yes, since the referendum, there's been less immigration from Europe, but it's just been replaced by more immigration from outside Europe. And that makes sense with the economy as it is. It's doing quite well. It's growing. Companies are growing. One of my cousins is a director for a major UK airline. And she told me recently that they have 600 job vacancies at the airline. 600 people. That they can't find 600 people to do the work. Now, a company like that, they can go, just for argument's sake, I'm not saying they're doing this, I'm just illustrating a point. They can go to the Philippines and they can find 400 people. Maybe they find 400 people who are prepared to move to Britain, endure the damp, and work on the airline. Then they go to UK immigration and say, we want visas for these 400 people. And UK immigration, their only question is, well, have you tried to get those people here? Now, a big company, a big airline like that, they can say, look, yeah, here's all the things we've done to try and get people from the UK, and it hasn't worked. We've gone over there, we've got 400 people, they want the jobs. UK immigration is not about stifling businesses. If a business can show that they've tried, but the right people for the job aren't here, UK immigration will give them the visa. Okay, so the idea that you stop or reduce immigration in some kind of massive way because you go, well, half of immigration was coming from Europe, so around 300,000 people a year coming into the UK. And then you just say, okay, so after a no-deal Brexit or a Brexit that we want, take back control of the borders, that'll drop to 150,000, is quite unlikely. It will drop if there is a catastrophic recession and there aren't any jobs. Remember, we're still now employing in the NHS doctors and nurses from countries all over the world. The NHS proactively recruits in all sorts of countries around the globe to get the staff that it can't get in the UK. And if after Brexit, Europe is a separate entity, then it's just going to be a case of the NHS is going to UK immigration and going, right, there's 40 doctors in Spain, we need them, please give them a visa. Get a visa. The case is, up till now, those doctors in Spain, they were like, oh, I think I'll go and work in Britain for a while because maybe things aren't so good in my area. And they could just walk in, there was just less paperwork. Now there's going to be a bit of paperwork, but it doesn't actually change the situation. It doesn't change the total of number of people coming in. To do that, you have to fundamentally change the economy and, cause a recession. Less jobs means less immigration. So what do I think will actually happen? I've said this since day one of Brexit, since the morning after the referendum. I think there will be a fudge. There's always some big talk about how, it's going to be a no deal if Europe won't toe the line on what the UK wants. Ultimately, I think there will be a fudge. It might be a kind of Brexit in name only. It might be a second referendum. It could be all sorts of things. But ultimately, they'll find a way to not quite leave Europe in the way that I think many people thought we might be leaving Europe. And after that, then I think we might see a lot of pent-up demand released, because there's probably a lot of people holding off on property purchases until there's some kind of certainty about the future, about what's going on. So then we might start to see the housing market actually quite busy. But I'm not going to say that that's going to happen, say this is 2019, I'm not going to say that's going to happen this year, because I'm also not convinced that the end of October is not going to be another time when the can gets kicked further down the road. I just don't have the confidence, no matter what people say about how they're really going to do it. When push comes to shove, it's such an uncertain thing. There's Project Fear saying one thing, there's other people saying other things, but nobody really knows. And so, is a prime minister going to take a country into the unknown? I doubt it. I think we'll see fudges, fixes, and can kicking for quite some time to come. So in terms of how is Brexit going to affect property prices, big recession, house prices will fall, sunlit uplands, everything great after Brexit. I think we'll start to see quite a lift off of prices because the market will start to be more confident and more certain, or fudging and can kicking, in which case I think we'll see things moving along as they are now. There's just like gradual rises in certain areas, but nothing particularly dramatic.
That's all for this short video. There's much more information in the book, How to Really Buy a Property. As always, if you found this information useful, please remember to subscribe, to share, to like, to do all those social media things. It all helps other people who need this information find it more easily. If you've got some specific questions which you'd like me to have a go at answering, please put them in the comments below and I'll try and get to them. And in the meantime, good luck with your property purchase.